welcome everyone, and welcome to the Evolve Voices podcast, a platform to hear about the fascinating stories behind the people that power global commerce. I am your host, Mayssa Nasr, a marketing and growth consultant and the Middle East region host of Evolve Voices. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Arthur Bizdikian, who's on a mission to reinvent the future of commerce, connecting creators, conscious brands, and consumers in a way that puts value, sustainability, and transparency at the heart of every transaction. But what makes Arthur stand out today isn't just his vision, it's the way he actually multiplies it. From hosting the Innovation Park show on Virgin Radio to mentoring young founders at the UB to investing in startups and other projects, he has become a bridge between ideas and action, creativity and impact, and talent and opportunity. So I hope you'll enjoy this episode. And Arthur, welcome and thank you for accepting my invitation.
Mayssa, thank you for having me. And I'm not going to lie, it's the first time anyone calls me Arthur on air.
Yeah.
It reminds me of my childhood. When I was younger, I was Arthur, and then somehow in my journey, I
Arthur.
evolved
Yeah.
Arthur, but it's all good. But thank you for the intro. That's actually really good. I might use it. I start like this is how you use me moving forward.
So tell us first, to all our listeners who never heard about Pipp, can you please explain what it is?
Yeah, but let me tell you how we got to Pipp first.
Yes.
So, and I tell everyone that it's funny because I started the company because my boobs were too big and I could never find outfits that fit me because I've been working out ever since I was really young. But my dad used to be a fashion designer and all of his friends were tailors and designers. So they would create my custom outfits. And a couple of years ago, my career always started off in startups and entrepreneurship. I've been working in that field since I was 21 or 22. I had already been really immersed in the world of entrepreneurship and tech. When I was traveling, one day I had an event. I was like, what am I going to wear tonight? I had this look in my mind for the suit, just never had time to get it done. And now I was like, I wish I could just do this online. That's how the idea actually came to me. Why not build a platform that democratizes the world of fashion? Because fashion is unique. It's such an amazing world because you have the big brands that everyone's used to, but that's a very small percentage of the actual market and the economy. Mm-hmm. A lot of people travel because they want to meet hidden gems in different countries, right? But it's not easy. It's not easy to actually find the best tailors, the best designers, the best up and coming, creators, because their stories are very much diluted in this big world. So the whole concept was, how do we create a platform that really allows these hidden voices, the hidden talent, the hidden creators, the hidden designers to actually have a platform where they can create fashion that is, accessible to the whole world, but where you can also have it custom made and so on. So we used to focus a lot on emerging brands that are sustainable, cruelty-free, and so on. We started the company in Lebanon, but I took it to the US. We raised funding from San Francisco. We took it to the Middle East. Suddenly, the company was, we had a market in more than 12 countries. But what ended up happening, because we're all about storytelling, right? Whenever we used to bring in creators and brands, especially up-and-coming brands or, hidden designers and tailors, the storytelling was a huge element of it. And we used to create our own content. So all of the content was through our platform. We used to do the photo shoots, the content creation, the collaborations with the celebrities, with the designers and so on. And people loved it. But at some point, we actually owned the white label of some of the biggest influencers in the region. And we launched their brands, but what we noticed very quickly is that, people love your content on social media and they interact with it, but you're not really converting. And the conversion rate is actually quite bad. So from 40 million views that we got for one video, we had about 200 conversions, and that almost made me cry. I'm not going to lie, I think I did shed a tear, but it was like, I'm looking at the numbers, like 40 million. Why is it only 200 conversions? It doesn't make sense. And then we owned multiple brands like that. We repeated the campaigns. We kept on seeing the same results. When we're doing our research, we realized that, it's funny, 84% of, global commerce is inspired by social media. Only 2% takes place because of social media. So like, okay, people like our content. We're a tech company. Why don't we build the tech ourselves? Let's build the video technology that allows people to buy. And then we did that. And our investors called from the US, like, hey, video commerce is going to be the next big thing. And you guys seem to be very advanced in it. Why don't you develop it further? So we did that, we launched it, and then I got a call from TikTok, and then I got calls from people that work at Facebook. They're like, hey, your technology is really good. How can we work together? How can we support you? How can we turn this into something big? But then, so TikTok currently, we have a tech partnership with ByteDance, right? But we have 5 of the big executives of Facebook that had just left Facebook that joined the company. But that's when we decided to actually do a full rebranding, because we realized the power of what we had built was not a platform that allows people to sell, but we had actually built a social economy platform, a platform that allows users and brands and content creators to actually interact together, but to build a future where their content actually has value. Because right now, most of us don't use social media for entertainment. We're all trying to either build a personal brand, a business, sell stuff, buy stuff. It's part of our everyday use in our economy. But these platforms are not built for that. And the algorithms are actually built against it. Because if you can organically sell through social media, then no one's paying for ads. So that's why they're always pushing more for entertainment and viral content. So we ended up building a platform that's for the new generation. It's a platform that allows you to turn your content into a business. It allows you to actually seamlessly integrate products and services into your content, whether it's from other brands or from your own creations. And we have our own algorithms for monetization. Our platform today pushes quality content, not viral content. So it's really more of a platform that's goal and journey oriented rather than, another platform where you can just be entertained and build a following.
Okay.
That was a
Wow,
very
very
long
interesting.
answer.
Yeah, no,
One
but
very
it's a
simple
very
question.
interesting. Yeah. Thank you. No, on the contrary, thank you for all these details. So today, anyone can actually join Pipp as a creator.
Well, anyone can join, but the app at the moment is by invite only, and we did that by design because we wanted, especially right now, right? Because we want to build a quality platform, and we're in a phase where we love co-creating with our community. So actually, our community gets to decide what our product roadmap looks like. And we always have roundtable discussions with our creators, our brands, our users. We even have a very insane advisory board that's working with us. And now we're actually launching our creator advisory board. So we have a new advisory board that's just content creators that are joining. So it's actually fun. But that's why we did it by invite only, because we're in a phase where we're co-creating with our community. So anyone that gets the invite can join. Actually, I'll send you an invite code for your, followers as well and your listeners, so they can join the app, start testing. From there, we have 2 different paths. We have the normal path that every user can do. But on top of that, there are 2 different paths. There's the path of becoming a verified vendor. So a verified vendor means that you are an actual registered business and your product is, regulated, it's compliant. So we know that what you're selling is not fake, it's real, it's trustworthy, right? So in that case, you get to become a verified vendor. Your merchandise then becomes accessible for all of the users and the creator on the app to integrate within their own content. And then the second path is actually the path of the Creator Hub. The Creator Hub is our community of content creators that have actually been vetted. So those are creators that are creating quality content. They're trying to build healthy and, positive relationships and interactions on the platform. So they represent the values that we stand for as a company. So the Creator Hub also has slight, and I say slight because everyone can monetize, but they have slight enhancements on the monetization. But anyone can be a creator, anyone can be a user, anyone can sell, anyone can create content. But for the extra trustworthiness towards the community, then people have to be vetted. And once they are, they get additional badges. The algorithm pushes them a bit further. They become more part of the discovery and the suggestion.
Okay. And what's the, where you were talking before about conversion rate. So what's the conversion rate after, you integrated this video technology?
Well, I think it's so too early to tell right now, but we are seeing dramatic increases based on the number of users. With Lemonade had millions of users. Pipp right now is by invite only. So we just crossed the 200,000 test users or, beta users, whatever you want to call. But as a conversion percentage, it's higher, but we're still not pushing the commerce as much as we're pushing the community building. Because we don't want to be a social commerce platform. The issue with the social commerce platform is that you end up creating content around products only. And when you're building content around products, people don't really want to watch it, right? You don't really build a proper community. Instead, we did something else. We are going more towards shoppertainment, which means you create a community that wants to embed products as part of their lifestyle. The difference between it is with social commerce, I would be like, this is a supplement brand. You should really buy the supplement because it's good for you. In shoppertainment, it would be more like, I'm an athlete and this is how I'm training to run the marathon. And then in the content would be the products, the supplements, and the training programs that I'm actually using. So what ends up being is that here it's a direct sale platform. And in this case, it's a thought leadership platform. So this connects you more towards the outcome, the journey, and the identity that you're trying to achieve. This is more towards me trying to sell you products. So we had to choose. This is what Lemonade Fashion was doing. This is what Pipp was doing. But the funny thing is that when we started doing this, all of the things we ever dreamed of doing in fashion that we weren't able to do came to Pipp. So in the past, for example, our dream would have been to participate in some of the fashion weeks, right? But that would have been just us participating. Today, fashion weeks are coming to us to collaborate for the platform. So for live streaming, for merchandising, and so on, right? So it's a different caliber because this is a much bigger umbrella and it allows for much deeper value because now you're working on outcomes. You're working on identity shifts, on outcomes. You're working towards helping people identify the path that they want to take, who are the people that can influence them, but also what are the products and services, which is also the reason why we recently launched ticketing events. We're also now launching programs, courses, and subscriptions, right? Because we don't want it to be another commerce platform. Because today, you're not paying anything actually to be part of this platform, of this community. No. The user, I mean, is not paying anything. Yeah. Okay. Nor the user, nor the brand. So we don't charge people to join the platform. Anyone can join for free, but there are mechanisms within the platform for monetization. So from the brands, for example, every time a transaction takes place, we take a transaction fee, but it's not a marketplace transaction fee. So marketplaces typically might charge you anywhere between, the lower end would be around 25%, and then it can go all the way up to 50 or sometimes even 60%. In the case of Pipp, we take 5% because we don't want people to see us as a marketplace. We want them to see more like this is their digital presence online. And half of what we take from the brands from each transaction actually goes back to the creators. So 50% of our transaction fee goes to the creator pool and then is divided on different creators based on how much each creator contributed directly or indirectly to that transaction. So that's one of the ways. Other ways we allow our creators to monetize is they can actually create their own products and they can create their own events and services and so on. And then people can pay for that. And that's where they actually keep the majority of the income. And still a percentage of it goes back to the creator pool, which is great because in this case, if we're both content creators, we're not competing, right? Yes. Because if we're both content creators, and we're both talking about the same thing, we're both making money on it. So it's actually very collaborative. And this is something that doesn't exist on other platforms because other platforms, you get the direct sale commission. In our case, the algorithm detects the whole journey and then does the attribution of the commission on different creators. So it's a collaborative approach rather than a competitive approach. It's very well thought of. It's interesting. And I'm curious to know today, in terms of number of users, you said 200,000. Are they all or the majority are based in Lebanon, or are we talking about an international actually community? Actually, currently it's, I would love to say international. It is going there. Majority is still regional though. Like we have a lot of user base in the UAE, Saudi, and so on. Definitely Lebanon is a big market for us because that's where we come from. My co-founder is also like a celebrity and so on. So we do have a big user base there, but a lot of our partners, a lot of them are actually spread between the US, Europe, and Southeast Asia. But collectively, we decided that we need to do this one step at a time. So while we always get users coming in from different countries around the world, the current focus was let's launch in the MENA, build up the core of the platform, and then start expanding abroad. But we have partnerships with some of the biggest artists and the biggest creators of the world. So that includes, people in Hollywood, that includes big, rappers and singers and very, very big artists. But we told them it's too early. And usually what we always compare Threads with Blue Sky when it comes to the strategy. Because with Threads, for example, you had way too many users coming in one day, which completely dropped the unique value proposition because you didn't have an organic community being built up. So it just became a copy-pasted community.
Yes.
But with Blue Sky did it slowly. But because they did it slowly, the platform was able to build a unique value proposition and a unique culture when it comes to the community and the quality of the content and so on. And that's why, although Threads has 100 million active users, whereas Blue Sky only has 30 million active users, the quality and the value of a user on Blue Sky far exceeds the value of a user on Threads, which means today, if Threads disappears, no one's impacted. If Blue Sky disappears, a lot of creators and a lot of people will be affected because this has value. This was a copy-pasted community. So, and we've done that mistake before. Like one of the campaigns that we did got us 500,000 users in less than 12 hours. But when you get 500,000 users in less than 12 hours for a new platform, nothing remains. It actually, and the tech was able to handle it. It didn't crash. But you don't have quality interaction. You don't have already a community to welcome them in. So you end up getting so many people that come in, so many people that go out, no retention and no quality. So in cases like this, you have to build it up slowly. You have to build the pillars, and then one day it flips.
Beautiful. And if you had to sum up in only like one sentence, one line, the company's mission today, Pipp's mission, what maybe not today, maybe on the long term, but what it is in terms of mission.
That's actually very funny because I have something. I know what I want to build. But when you're a bit too early in what you're building for the world, and it's very hard to find the right words. So the one that I can share is that our mission at the moment, or our vision, is to turn everyone's digital identity into a personal economy. But the reason why I still sometimes hesitate in sharing that, because when we're talking about, an economy, it's still mostly money driven and monetization oriented.
Yes.
But when it comes to artists, and not just artists, like when it comes to the creators, because there were a lot of studies. And if you look at what's the number one thing that they're suffering from on social media today, on other platforms, monetization is not the top of the list. It's, I think, third on the list or second on the list. But the number one thing that people are, suffering from today is the lack of authenticity, which means a lot of times they have to create types of content that they don't believe in and they don't really want to create, but because they want the algorithms of the platform to pick up their content so that it gives them the viral effect. And we've seen this in multiple places. One of them actually was a study that we co-sponsored with Beatport. And Beatport is the world's biggest platform for DJs and electronic music. So they have like 1.1 million professional DJs and about 40 million amateur DJs from around the world that use their platform. So we actually co-sponsored a very big study to see, what's going to be the future of content and social media and commerce when it comes to the world of, DJs and music. And again, what we found that the number one problem that DJs were facing today is that they don't want to sell out to be able to sell. They don't want to reduce their art and reduce what they stand for in order to be compliant or in order to fit algorithms. So that was the first one. And then the second one that I saw was from one of our advisors, actually, who used to be the ex-head of media for Facebook on a global level. But he's also the writer of the best-selling book called Pixels to Profit, which is a book around the creator economy. So again, he shared with us a study and it showed us the exact same thing again. The number one problem that people had was authenticity when it comes to these platforms. So your content is not really matching who you really want to be. And that's something that Pipp is really, really dedicated to work on. So we really work on authenticity. That's why our algorithms are not about virality. We don't really care. We care more about what's the quality and the context that you're giving. And after that, I think monetization plays a huge role. But first, you have to be comfortable with who you are and where you belong. And once you're comfortable with who you are and where you belong, that's when you can always start thinking about, okay, how do I make money out of this? And how much money can I actually make? Can I be self-sustainable? Can I build around it? And so on. I think it still fits onto the concept of an economy, right? Because why would you want to work in a job or have a career where you're not authentic, you don't believe in what you're doing, and the money is also important. But it's not that obvious when we state it as a statement on its own.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not easy actually to build a certain model that is profitable but still value driven around authenticity in your case, right? Because you need to have both. I mean, for the company to be able to sustain, it's
Yeah,
very
I
good to
don't.
keep this authenticity, but I mean, on the long term. So tomorrow, if Pip will become like a huge company, and I'm sure it will, but how can you keep this value of authenticity, whereas you need it also to be profitable, also vis-a-vis investors and, everyone
I would
who's involved.
argue actually that it's the other way around. I think the short term is harder, right?
Okay.
Because every time you're trying to build something, at some point it's benchmarked, right? So today, everything that we do is still, compared to social media platforms. But whenever you're trying to build on top of something, that's not always the best approach. Because what you end up doing is you're taking their base and then you're building on top of it. So whatever assumptions and hypotheses and so on that they had, you're still adopting it and you're building from there on end. And if you look at these platforms, right, social media platforms are not new. Facebook is a 2004 baby. Instagram is like a 2008 or 2009 baby. Twitter actually started before Facebook, but didn't make it till after Facebook. TikTok, I don't know, I think it's now, 10, 12 years old or so on. When these models came out, what was their monetization structure? It was purely advertising.
Yes.
The whole platform is built around the concept of advertising, which means their values and so on are always going to be linked to that. The more views I get, the more money I make. So that's why with Pipp, it's the opposite, right? But so I think the short term is going to be harder because in the short term, we're still going to be compared to those models. But I believe that today we live in a world where technology has changed so much and user behavior has changed so much. So I don't think it makes sense to really continue building on top of what they were doing. I think we need to rethink the whole engine and the core of these platforms. That's why I think the short term is going to be much harder. But I think long term, it's the value that actually ends up winning. Right? But it's not going to happen in a year and it's not going to happen in 2 years. It's going to take around 4 to 5 or 6 years, maybe more, maybe less. But just like it took social media time to reach a phase where, okay, it's stable. Now we understand it, right? Now it goes without saying, but I think Pipp is also going to require some time to change the model and to rebuild it from scratch. So I always believe in the long term more than I believe in the short term. But I also believe that we don't have all the right answers yet. And a lot of what we're trying to do, we're learning on the way. That's why for us, there are two things that really work well. One is that we have a very close relationship with our community and we don't always try to assume what the community wants. That's why we always try to work with experts from the community, right? We try to work with athletes, we work with, musicians and artists and brands to understand their struggle and their pain points. But if you look at our advisory team and our investors, you have people from some of the biggest companies in the world. And the funny thing is that a lot of what we do today were not my idea. The majority of what Pipp has built so far, including the name, by the way, so the name did not come from me, including the name, either came from our team, came from our network of investors and advisors, or came from our community of partners and users and creators and brands. So
Why
I think
this
it's going to
name,
be
by the way? What does it mean? Does it mean anything, the name? Yeah.
Oh, I love the name Pipp. And funny enough, I didn't even vote for it in the beginning. But
Okay.
Pipp is cool because Pipp, first of all, is all about the people. It's about the peeps. But if you look at the way it's pronounced, right, you have the I and you have the three P's. So it's P-I-P-P. The I is the individual and the P are the people. So it's me and my people. So it's you and your people, which is the concept of community. That's why if you look at the logo, the P's have eyes. So you actually see that it's people looking at you, right? So it's about you and your community. And we have so many different versions of animations of the pea. It's funny. Like we have peas that are wearing hats, peas with mustaches, peas, that are more athletic, peas that are more nerdy. So the pea is customizable to who you are, because at the end of the day, no two people are alike and no two communities are alike either.
Nice. Tell me, you are vocal about sustainability and conscious consumption, right? In general. So how do you think can tech companies today avoid falling into what we call greenwashing?
I mean, that's quite a tough one.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy.
No, but honestly, in these cases, I always look at you have to look at the full picture, but you cannot cover the full picture, right? So each company, I think, has to take one part of the equation. In our case, for example, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build the community aspect of it. So on Pipp, we completely removed the vanity metrics. So you don't see on Pipp how many followers, likes, or anything that other people have. I don't even know how many followers you have, right? Instead, you see your own, but I don't see yours. Instead, what we have is we have different types of badges. Some badges have to do with achievements, but other badges have to do with quality. And anything that is sustainable, cruelty-free, and so on, those fall in the quality section of the badges and achievements and so on. So today, if I want to find sustainable brands, there's no real place that actually puts this together. But if you go to Pipp, you put sustainable, you will actually find all the brands that have achieved that badge. Does it mean that it's perfect? It's not, right? Because at the moment, we still rely mostly on what the brands say and so on. But as a company, this is the part of the equation that we decided to fix and what we're working on, right? So other people will then start working more on, putting the standards of what is considered sustainable, what is considered so on. And once they do that, then that gets adapted with our technology. So different people, different companies have to fill in the different parts of the supply chain. Right? Because one company cannot do all of it. But as long as everyone's conscious of this is the aim, this is goal, and this is where we would love to go, that's where the concept of collaboration comes in. Right? So we don't want to be a monopoly. Our whole concept from the beginning was we build the core and then we integrate the rest. So we love having business partners. We love having tech integrations, but we also love having community integrations and quality integrations and so on. So I think it's going to take some time, but the only way you can actually stop, the greenwashing, I think it's at some point by boycotting some things. And it's not just boycotting what exists, but it's actually supporting what's up and coming.
Yeah, true. I agree. Let's talk a bit about, the fact that you've chosen actually to build Pipp out of Lebanon, right? So first, tell us why, and tell us what has this country, Lebanon, taught you as a founder that you think no other place could have.
I decided to build it out of Lebanon for multiple reasons. Why? One, because I am Lebanese, right? So I was born in Lebanon. That's where my community is. That's where my family is, and so on. Although a lot of my family members, are everywhere else now. But I always believe that when you're building something, it's always important to also build it in your backyard, right? And to always serve your initial community. And that's, by the way, the community that really allows you to learn. And it's potentially the most forgiving community that you have. So it is the community that will tolerate your mistakes, right? So that's why and so it's just, in the case of Pipp in Lebanon, a lot of companies have their initial headquarter in the country where the founders lived in, right? So it's not a Lebanon special case when it comes to this. But on the talent side, I think Lebanon has really good talent, right? And we have really good talent when it comes to tech, but not all the elements of tech, right? So if you look at back-end tech, front-end, and so on, we're really, really, really good. When it comes to hardware, which our company is not into, not really. In AI, we do have some lacks. Like we might understand how to use existing AI and tweak it, but we don't really know how to build engines, right? That's not really a specialty that we have, but it's fine. You can still build the core in Lebanon and then you can bring in experts from everywhere else. But we also have a crazy good community of creatives. right?
Okay.
So there's very creative people. We bring in all of our graphic designers, UX, UI designers. Our entire tech team is in Lebanon. Our people skills are really good in the country, which means everything that has to do with customer support when it comes to account managers for the businesses, the brands, and even the creators that we bring in, we do all of it from Lebanon. There are certain things, however, that we bring in from abroad, which is mostly our C levels. And it's our C levels that are more outwards oriented. So when I'm looking at our head of growth, right? When I'm looking at our COO, when I'm looking at our chief partnerships officer and so on, those people we usually don't bring from Lebanon because we need to look at countries that have much bigger exposures, but also countries that have a lot of the big headquarters of the companies based in. So in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, or the US or so on, you walk out, there's a Facebook headquarter, there's a headquarter for another company and so on, which you don't always find, in smaller countries. So that's why, for me, right, I love building our back office and our support team, all of it, all of our tech teams in Lebanon, and our executives and so on are more, regional or abroad. And I'm not someone that will ever bullshit you and tell you Lebanon's the best country or any country is the best. I don't believe that, right? I think they all have their problems. Lebanon really, as a founder, teaches you how to be resilient and to keep going. But to be honest, I think you learn that in so many other places as well. So it's not really the country, I think, that defines who you are as an entrepreneur. It's who you are as an entrepreneur. Because in any country around the world, you need to be resilient. You need to not give up, right? You're always going to have struggles. Yes, we might have slightly more struggles than other places, but we're not the worst, right? I mean, I still think there are countries that have it way, way, way worse than we do. So at the end of the day, it's not about the country. I think it's about the entrepreneur, because you can be a success or a failure in any given country. I've seen so many founders in Lebanon give up. I've seen so many founders in Lebanon not being resilient.
Yeah. So
It's
also
the
because
same case ever.
you're a mentor and entrepreneur in residence at AUB, at the American University of Beirut. So you know what the new generation of founders today have as a patterns, or they feel maybe today discouraged. So what are those patterns that you see today in this new generation?
That's a very interesting question. I do see a lot of ambition in founders, but also it's a numbers game, to be very honest. I don't know if patterns are the right word, is the right word, because we always believe that it's a numbers game, right? Like every cohort, we get 300 applications and slightly more, but we end up getting like 300 that actually follow through within the first phase of the program. But there you see a bit of everything, right? You see serious people, you see some founders who are just building this as a hobby. Some people are thinking very Lebanon-wise. Some people are thinking about building regional platforms. Other people are thinking global. Some people are in agriculture. Other people are trying, I mean, we had someone trying to build a za'atar biscuit, right? But we've also seen people trying to change IP laws all over the world, or we've seen very advanced medical tech companies and solutions that are coming out. I think given a big enough sample, you will always find differences. You will always find what you're looking for in a big enough sample. Our job is to make sure we find the right ones. And then my job is to make sure that they don't think local, they think global. So my job is to make sure that entrepreneurs are actually being set up in the right path for success. And if it's not global, then at least regional, because with entrepreneurship, if you don't have a big enough market, your product will never reach profitability, right? Because it's already cost you so much to be able to build something big. So you need a big enough market, and you will never be able to take a huge percentage of that market. So when someone comes and says, we're going to take 1% or 2% of the country, you will most probably get 0.0001% of the market you thought you were going to get. So that's why your market size has to be big enough. But we are seeing some really innovative things coming out of the country. But one thing we always discuss, and one thing we're always careful about, is that today, unfortunately, and you can see it as a fortunate thing, but it's also very unfortunate. We live in an era where it's very easy to build something, but in most cases, it's built on bullshit. So all these AI platforms and so on that you can build, it's great if you want to just ideate and you want to put something out there to test and to get the feel of whether people are looking for something around that. But those are not sustainable solutions. So whenever we're looking today at projects or entrepreneurs and founders, first of all, we look at, is this someone that's looking for a get-rich-quick scheme? Like, am I just trying to put out an AI-built app within 48 hours? And then I just want to make a bit of money over the next 6 to 12 months and then launch the next one and then launch the next one. So that's not something we look into, because entrepreneurship takes time if you want to build something valuable. So we always look at, is there an actual core to the business? Is it authentic? Is there an actual infrastructure play? Does the founder, right, does the company own any intellectual property? Because at the end of the day, it's always about the intellectual property. It's not about the specific feature. The features will always be changing. But if I'm using an AI bot or so on to create something, I don't really own it, right? The entire intellectual properties belongs to that company. So I need something that I can build, scale, and then maybe one day be able to exit. And we always look at the founder mentality, because we need to invest in the founder, because whatever you tell me you're building today, you will most probably change. Everything changes, everything pivots. And if you don't change, you will eventually die. So pivoting is part of your journey as an entrepreneur. The best way to explain this is what Mike Tyson says, which is everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So that's where your true character comes out. And in entrepreneurship, you will get punched in the face every single day. What we need to make sure as a program is, when you get punched, because we know it's happening, when you get punched in the face, do you have what it takes to make the necessary changes? Will you have the resilience? If you thought this was going to succeed in a year, but it took 7 years, do you have the breath to go 7 years, to have the resilience? Are you passionate enough, and do you have a reason enough to stay, to commit, and to go through this journey? Because no matter what you think is going to happen, it's going to take so much longer than you had expected. So the biggest thing that I see in the young generation is that they're very impatient, and that is their biggest flaw.
Very interesting. And in one of my podcasts, there's someone who helps entrepreneurs and founders succeed and just put their strategy and their plans. And he was saying that any founder or any new entrepreneur has to have the exit in mind whenever you start. Do you agree?
No, I really do not. It's good to have ideas, of what exits can happen. But again, who are the best founders that you can think of?
Yeah,
Richard Branson, right?
I was going to
Mark,
say,
Mark
I was
Zuckerberg,
going to
right?
say Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah,
Bill
it's true.
Gates, Elon
There's no
Musk.
exit, actually. Yeah.
Are these founders known for their exits?
It's
No.
true.
I think the best founders are the ones that are obsessed with the problem that they're trying to fix, and to always adapt their solution and keep on pushing it forward. I think an exit is a byproduct of what you're trying to do. It should never be the reason why you get into entrepreneurship. Because if you're getting into entrepreneurship with the soul, and I'm not saying exiting is wrong at all. It's your right to exit as an entrepreneur. It's your award, whatever you want to call it, right? Okay. If you want to exit, please exit. Because sometimes the best thing you can do is exit, because you might have reached a phase where you as a founder can no longer take it to the next stage. You might reach a phase where you're exhausted and you need a bigger company with bigger pockets to take over the mission that you had. Sometimes exiting is the best thing that you can do. But if you're starting the company initially with the whole intention of exiting, it means the mission is not that important, the problem is not that personal to you, and it also means that you started off your journey with impatience. Because if you thought you were going to exit in a year or 2 years or 3 years, but you know what? It didn't happen. It's going to take you, suddenly you realize it's going to take you 10 years. What are you going to do now? Are you going to keep going, or
you're right?
Are you just going to write it off?
You're right. Very good advice to all the entrepreneurs who are listening to us. Let's talk a bit about you as a leader. What kind of leader are you?
Okay. I think that's a better question you can ask my team.
What kind of leader do you think you are?
Okay. So I personally don't like to micromanage. I'm not a micromanager. I like to, find the right people and then allow them to build. But it's not always that easy, because it's not always that easy when you don't have A players, right? When you have the A players, it's always amazing. But when you don't have the A players, it's not. My personal style is a collaborative style, and I don't know why I like it. I might be lazy, that's why I like it. But usually, honestly, like, My entire job is to find amazing people and then put them around me, right?
Okay.
So that way, when I have to take a decision, the way I take decisions in the company is if you send me an email asking me to take a decision, it's automatically rejected if it's a big decision. If you need a big decision from me, right, you have to come and present your case because I need you to explain to me why. And then I want to have other people around me that are also listening. And then we need to have a conversation around it. But this gives you an opportunity to explain to me why this matters. And it also gives you an opportunity to listen to other points of views and so on. So I always say we're collaboratively building the company, right? And in my opinion, it works, or at least it works for our culture and works for our team and for our company. It's just because I don't want to, be a dictator. You still have to be the CEO, but my job is to create the proper environment for collaboration. And I like to have fun with it, right? And especially because of my name. So since my name is Arthur, so what I actually did is when we were designing our office in Lebanon, so for the meeting room, I made sure we have a round table. Because now whenever we do meetings, I'm like, guys, you're the knights of the round table. And we also have this thing in the company where we say we don't do constructive criticism, we do constructive co-creation.
I like it. Nice. Yeah. Okay.
So in a nutshell, that's the type of leader I am. I'm very sarcastic. I might make fun of you, but I'm usually making fun of you in a jokey way, but the team gets to make fun of me as well. So we always have that back and forth banter. I make mistakes just like everyone else. I might lose my temper every now and then, but whenever I lose my temper, I make sure to apologize for it afterwards.
Okay. All right. Nice. And you combine all these features, I might say. So entrepreneurship, investing, mentoring, content creation. So what drives you? What drives you at your core to do all that?
I like to live a full life, to be honest. I have a lot of things that I've set in place to be able to do these things, and I can break it down to you. But at the heart of it, and it's what I teach my other founders. It's first of all, I have my 3 non-negotiables, right? So my first non-negotiable is that I meditate every morning, no matter what, and I've been able to maintain that for 12 years. My second non-negotiable is that no matter what, I cannot go more than 3 days without working out. So that guarantees me that even on my worst weeks, right, I'm at least doing 2 to 3 workouts. That's in my worst week. And number 3 is that no matter what, I will never cross 99 kilos of body weight. But now I'm actually dropping that number to 95. So now it's going to be no matter what, I don't cross that. The reason why this has helped me so much is because it keeps what matters to me in balance, because entrepreneurship is a marathon. And then I've done this mistake where I sacrifice everything for a period of time, but then at the end of it, you no longer recognize yourself. Like I look in the mirror then and I'm overweight. I don't feel good about myself. And I'm like, but what's the point of me, trying to build something if I'm no longer who I want to be? So why am I losing myself in my journey towards, becoming who I want to be? So I started with the non-negotiables, right? And then what I decided to do is that I wanted to build out, okay, what's my identity? So now when I journal in the morning, I write it down every morning. I'm like, in this life, right, I'm playing the role of the innovative entrepreneur. And then I put down, what does that mean? Which means, right, that I never give up. I'm always innovative. I'm always trying to find solutions and so on. Second thing is I'm playing the role of the athlete. So what does that mean? So I'm healthy. I'm pushing limits, disciplined, right? Full of energy, always youthful and so on. Then I put the identity that I am, a spiritual, I'm on the spiritual path, which makes me sure that I'm careful with being stubborn. I don't get angry. I meditate every day, right? And then finally, I put in that I'm also, mentoring and guiding the new generation of entrepreneurs. So I put these things, and I also have the family stuff that I put in, but I put these things because every single day it allows me to focus and to be like, okay, for me, those are the things that matter. Anything that comes outside of these, I don't touch. If it comes within these things, then I will look into it and I will try. Now, if it's something I'm not an expert in, I've done investments where I don't understand the investment, but I trust the people and they're really, really, really good at what they do and they're experts. I've done investments where I've co-invested with my investors. So my investors are really good at what they do. And then when they decided to invest, I invest with them. I've done stuff where I see a founder, I like what they're doing, but then I refer them to my investors. And then if they say yes, then we all invest in it together. But if you realize I have a community of people that I delegate the decision to. When it comes to the content creation, for example, I'm good at talking, right? But which is also why I told you don't send me the questions because I'm not going to read it, right? But I don't do the edits myself, right? I don't do the posting. I don't do these things because all of these things other people will do. They're good at it. So let them do their part. I'll do my part, right? So what's the requirement of me? When it comes to the teaching and the mentoring and so on, again, we have a great team at AUB. We have systems in place. They make sure everything is working smoothly. I make sure that people are performing right. So I make sure that the founders know what they're doing. They have access to the right information. I help with them with their pitching and so on. I give them access to my network of investors and all these things. So there's something that I bring to the table, which currently AUB doesn't have. And AUB has something that they bring to the table, which I don't have, which is I don't have the time to organize everything. You organize, I bring in the value that I can bring in. And that's how I'm doing in everything, to be honest. That's why earlier I was telling you, my aim is to find the best people, right? And when I find the best people, they know their shit, I know my shit, combine the shit together, and then it's a shit cocktail.
Oh, it's so inspiring, by the way. I have one last question I like to always end my podcast with is, do you have any book or books recommendation to the people listening to us?
My favorite book of all time is Shoe Dog, which is the story of Phil Knight, who is the founder of Nike. And I read so many other books. I don't know why this one has always been my favorite, because it was not a clear path for him. And the way he came to Nike, the struggles, the journey, the adventure. For me, every time, like, if I need a boost, like that book usually gets me there. I love reading autobiographies a lot. Like, that one's good. I've read Richard Branson. So Richard Branson has two. He has Losing My Virginity and Finding My Virginity. I think they're both good, right? You should read both of them. I've read Elon Musk's, not bad, but I prefer the other two.
Okay. Do you think you'll ever write your own?
I'll answer that. And if you want to read something good about overall company culture and so on, or at least how to build a big company, I think there's the book called The Four, which is the story of Amazon, Google, and so on, Facebook. So that's good because it does the comparison between these companies. And the final one that I would suggest for startup founders, I would say you have to read Peter Thiel's book called 0 to 1. So I would say those are mostly the books that I've felt had the biggest impact on me. And yes, maybe at some point I might write an autobiography or so on. And before I tell you the title, you need to understand that the way I live my life is I do different things to different extremes, and that's how I find balance. But I don't want to ever do one thing in a balanced way, because I think doing something in a balanced way is mediocrity, and mediocrity is, the definition of death. So I want to do different things to different extremes. And that's why one day the autobiography that I want to write is going to be, and the whole thing is the title, right? So it's extremely fucked or fucking extreme. So that whole thing would be the title.
Nice. That's a title that attracts. It attracts, actually. Yeah. It's like Mark Manson's books, they attracted only by their titles, right? So the title needs to attract. It's a good title.
You know what's my best friend in life, by the way? My notes app. Because I get a lot of...
I was going to say ChatGPT, but yeah.
I use Claude, actually. I use Claude more than ChatGPT. But honestly, my best friend in life is my notes app. It's my notes app and anything where I can take notes, actually. Because I got the most random ideas at the most random times. Like, I came up with the idea of lemonade when I was meditating in the morning, and the thought came to me, and then I just wrote it down. I'm building something else, but it's still not out there. Again, thought came to me when meditating. A lot of the ideas that I get, even the book, right? I would be doing something random and then it just pops up and then I just write it down, because then I'm going to forget if I don't. So my notes has like thousands of notes in it, and it's usually like 3 words or 1 sentence, like just one random idea that came to me at that time. So I just put it in. I don't want to forget them. And then I end up going back to the notes, and that's how I find my inspiration and the things that I want to work on. And funny enough, that's how I graduated from university. I was working on my final year project, which was around innovation in nuclear technology. My professor, who was my advisor for that project, wanted me to write against it, right? And this was in 2014. There was just a new nuclear leakage happening. Everyone was against it. So I started doing my research, and my research, first of all, started on TED. So I always go to TED first, and that's where I do research because I want to see what the experts are saying about the field. And then I just fell in love with nuclear energy, right? So I went to my professor. I'm like, I want to do 4 nuclear energy, and I'm no longer going to come to your sessions so that you don't influence my thinking.
Yeah.
And then for an entire week, I didn't write anything. All I did was just research, and then just putting in on a paper titles. And then after a week, when I was asleep, I suddenly, in my dream, I just see the structure of what the project should look like. And I had a whiteboard next to my bed. So I just get out of bed and I wrote down the whole structure in the middle of the night. So I already had the titles. So I just wrote them down in the structured way. And then I went back to bed, woke up in the morning, looked at it, did the whole project, and I was the only person that ever got 100 over 100 on it, because all 4 of my professors were against nuclear energy. By the time I was done, all 4 of them were for nuclear energy.
Wow. Interesting.
It's funny because I feel like a huge part of what we do as entrepreneurs is we're trying to find solutions, and you cannot always force it. That's why I'm a very big advocate of meditations, very big advocate of working out, very big advocate. And I need to learn how to take my own advice on the last one, but I'm a big advocate of taking time off, which is not something I know how to do, but because that's when you're going to get the best solutions to your problems. And whenever I'm working with entrepreneurs, I can give them better advice than I take because I see their businesses from abroad, right? So I see it from on top. So I'm not stuck in the middle. I see it, so I can see it better. And that's why I make sure I have advisors and investors that do the same thing with me. Because although I give that advice, I need them to give me the same advice because sometimes I'm too deep and I don't see it. And this Christmas, I'm actually taking 2 weeks off. I've never in my life done that.
Wow, for the first time. Wow.
That I took 2 weeks off was in 2010 between school and uni.
Okay.
That was the first time in 15 years where I actually, take 2 weeks off because I just want to reset and just start seeing things from a different lens. But I'll let you know if that actually ends up working.
Yeah, well, enjoy it. I'm sure you'll come back with many new ideas and, and projects in mind.
I like talking. Like, don't ask me a lot of questions. I won't shut up.
It's a very interesting conversation, by the way. We could, continue for at least hours, but thank you for your time. I'm sure all our listeners enjoyed this episode, and
you're gonna have to let me know.
Our listeners, thank you for.
And I'll send you a special invite code so that you can share it with your community as well.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us up until the end. And as usual, keep evolving.
Now make sure you subscribe to Evolve Voices, this leading and incredible project where our ambassadors are interviewing amazing professionals from all over the world so they can share their perspective and benefit you with their perspective, their knowledge, and you can understand what's happening in the different markets. Evolve Voices is a project part of the Evolve Commerce Club, the #1 and leading community where we connect international professionals in the world of commerce. We are now connecting professionals in more than 40 markets, and every week we invite an expert to share their perspective and their knowledge. So if you'd like to know more, you can always look at the comments. We have a link there so you can request your application and stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks for watching. All the best. Ciao.